We are live, and it is Thursday, August the 10th. Football is back. The start of the first full week of the NFL season begins tonight, and this is WagerTalk Today. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. He is on assignment. He'll be back next week. And as my co-host, as always, Teddy Covers, who is back on a daily basis from here through the football season. And we have a great show with a lot of football talk, but don't forget baseball is on a daily basis as well. So we, of course, have to sneak in some baseball. We also have a little soccer talk as well. Two great guests to start things off on this Thursday. We have Jimmy Adams, going to look at a college football futures play with Utah State, also some actionable MLB for Thursday with Toronto and Cleveland. And then, of course, soccer expert Carmine Bianco, a little EPL talk with Newcastle and Aston Villa, and also a League Cup play as well. And as I mentioned, NFL preseason is here. We had a little bit of a teaser last Thursday with the Hall of Fame game. Not a teaser as in a 6-point teaser, but a little bit of a tease because the full week is here now. And we got two games tonight and a lot of actionable info for the rest of this week. And Teddy's going to do a big game breakdown on one of the NFL games tonight, Vikings, Seahawks. And we also have some BS. I know it's a Prez free zone, Teddy, but we have some BS as well, a better segment question. And we had two different questions on Monday and Wednesday about in-game live betting. So we're going to combine that into one actionable info question as well. So loaded show for Thursday. Teddy, great to see you. I know you are recharged, reloaded, and ready to go after your summer vacation. So can't wait to get to the show today on Thursday. How have you been doing, my man? Great to see you in person finally.
Yeah, it's like what I did on my summer vacation, but it's over now, dude. It is rear view mirror. And I'm going to talk about that and what bettors learned. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. I saved my ESPN Barstool Penn Gaming stuff for tomorrow. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But today, because that's huge news in the sports betting world, but I wanted to close out. I kind of started treat this like a business yesterday. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in today's show when it comes to what bettors learn.
Yeah, look forward to have that discussion with you. When I was looking for some BS questions in the live, in the comments on YouTube, somebody did ask Prez, I believe yesterday or the day before, they go, DraftKings stock has gone down today because of that announcement. Do you like DraftKings as a buy now? So it's funny you mentioned that. I was just seeing that earlier. And viewers, please leave questions in the comment section below on YouTube. Live chat is fine, but then, of course, we can check the replay 24/7. In the comments below, we get some of those BS questions, and we do respond back. Teddy and I read the comments. Prez does as well, as does WagerTalk TV. Like, subscribe, hit that bell, by the way, for instant alerts. NFL is here, my college football top 25 video, Teddy's opening line report, my NFL Fade the Public. When you hit that bell, you're the first to watch them when they go live here on WagerTalk TV. All right, let's bring on Jimmy Adams, world traveler Jimmy Adams. He's back ready for football as well. And Jimmy, of course, we're going to get to some baseball in just a moment with you, but let's talk football while it's on our mind. And NFL preseason tonight, but college football right around the corner as well. And we've been talking some season win totals. And, when Teddy and I started back in the 90s, I used to fly out to Vegas just to play the win totals at the Imperial Palace with Jay Cornegie. He was like the only guy bold enough to put them up. As you know, Teddy, to be maybe the top 20, top 25 teams at most. But now you can find totals on every team, every Division I team, 1A team. And Utah State, obviously there's some value with these teams that we don't talk about a lot. So, Jimmy, I'm very curious on your take on Utah State Aggies this year as far as their season win over-under.
Yeah, first of all, welcome back, Teddy. I hope you had a fantastic vacation. This is probably the longest one of your career. Teddy works extremely hard, and great intro there, Steve. But yeah, let's jump into it. So I bet the Utah State under the season win total. It's already ticked down a little bit, but sitting at 5 at DraftKings, I think it's still a very playable number. First of all, Utah State only returns 9 starters from a team that went 6-6 last season. And they lost a lot of close games, they won a lot of close games. They could have easily had a much worse record. And nearly all their skill position talent has to be replaced. Top wide receiver, leading rusher, their corners, they've all departed. Not to mention they have to replace essentially the entire offensive line. So Cooper Lega, he does have some mobility. He's going to get the reins. And he's going to need it because he's going to be running for his life all year long. The defense finished 11th in the Mountain West, allowing nearly 400 yards per game. And again, they have to replace most of those guys as well. Then you get into the scheduling aspect, which is extremely important, obviously, when capping season win totals. The Aggies probably have the most difficult conference schedule in the Mountain West. They have to face all the top teams. They're at Air Force, Fresno State, at San Jose State, at San Diego State, Boise State. They got to face them all. And then you look at the non-conference schedule. They open up at Iowa. Oh, that's going to be fun to face that defense the first week of the year. And they played a very good James Madison team. They'll probably be more than a touchdown underdog in that one. I can really only find two games that they're very likely to win. Idaho State, and then they wrap up at New Mexico. Those should probably be wins. But there's a big reason this line's been headed down. I don't think it's gone down far enough. Utah State under the win total of 5 is going to be the play.
So certainly when we look at the state of the Mountain West right now, like all the conferences in college football, it's a conference in transition. And yet there isn't a whole lot of transition in the Mountain West this year. It's what we saw last year, again this year. When I've handicapped this conference, my first inclination is there aren't a whole lot of teams that I love. You know, there's some good stuff at the top in terms of Air Force and Boise, but even the mid-tier teams, I don't look at Fresno. I don't think they're great this year. San Jose State isn't great this year. I have my questions about the quality of the conference. When you're talking about playing a team under 5 wins, how much of the quality of the conference comes into play there? Are you worried at all that the Mountain West is down, so maybe Utah State steals a couple of wins that we don't expect them to? Or is it a scenario where, look, it's pretty clear they're going to get some upper echelon squads, and the Colorado States of the world might be better this year than they were a year ago? Talk to me about the Mountain West as a whole and how Utah State fits into the picture.
Yeah, so conference could have a bit of a down year. It's very clear that Boise State is the cream of the crop. That being said, there are some decent teams that are substantially better than Utah State. Fresno State should be fine. San Diego State should be fine. Air Force is either the second or I think Fresno State might have jumped Air Force, but they're right up there, 2-3. And when you look at the conference slate and who Utah State has to play, they're not going to beat Boise. They're not going to beat Fresno State, probably not going to beat San Diego State. And even if you give them an upset or maybe even 2, they probably still don't make it to this win total. They set themselves up with a very difficult non-conference schedule. We know, like I said, 9 returning starters. This is a team, Colorado State could be better. So while the conference may be down as a whole, Utah State sits at the bottom of a down conference, if that makes sense. So I think under is a very strong play.
Jimmy Adams, WagerTalk.com, talking some college football futures there with the under on the Utah State Aggies. And we'll transition over to baseball. You know, guys, there's 4 daytime games, 4 nighttime games. And, Jimmy, you're going to look at one of the daytime plays, a 1 o'clock Eastern game here, a little bonus for our live viewers on Thursday afternoon. And just a reminder, the MLB First Pitch show goes early both Wednesday and Thursday because there are daytime games. Jimmy and I did the Wednesday show yesterday. And, Jimmy, I used the under in Cleveland, Toronto as my free play. And it was 1-0 the night before. And I mentioned there wasn't going to be much offense. And that was 1-0 the other way around yesterday on Wednesday. Cleveland now on the season at home, 38-19 to the under. They have not been hitting that ballpark. I'm curious to see what you're doing with this early daytime game here. Game 4 of this 4-game series, Toronto at Cleveland, 1 o'clock Eastern. Now, Blue Jays right now about $1.35 road favorite. And this shows why it's so important to have multiple books. We've got 9 overs and now 9.5 unders, about 50-50. So once again, a key number. Shop around. How are you playing this one, side or total?
Yeah, Steve, you hit it. I mean, that was a dynamite play, never in doubt there. But look, it's been a rough month of August, to say the least, for Cleveland, who's now lost 6 of 8, 9 of 12. The offense has just gone ice cold. Guardians have scored a total of 2 runs in the 3 games that have been played in the series so far with the Blue Jays. And I think reality is really starting to set in with this team that they're not going to make the playoffs. Now, 4.5 games back in the division, Minnesota playing fairly well, and they're well out of the wild card race. They don't have a chance there. So, and it's a bad time to not be scoring runs when you're sending Noah Syndergaard to the mound. It's easy to see why the Dodgers wanted to part ways with Syndergaard. He's now at least allowed at least 5 earned runs in 4 of his past 5 starts while pitching for both LA and Cleveland. And his team's lost the last 6 times he's taken the mound. home runs have been a major problem. 4 in his last start alone. I believe that came against the White Sox, but Noah Syndergaard just an absolute fade pitcher right now. And speaking of fade pitchers, look, we faded Alek Manoah a lot early on in the season, but he's actually been much better since his return, allowing more than 3 runs on only one occasion since the beginning of July. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, he's getting ahead in counts more. People don't really realize how important that is. Everyone hates walks, but going down 2-0 or 3-1, a batter can just sit fastball or whatever they're looking for and tee off. So getting ahead in counts, and he's producing a lot of swing and miss stuff with his slider, missing a lot of bats there. So facing a Cleveland offense that can't hit whatsoever right now should do wonders for his confidence. Toronto, although they're not exactly torching the baseball, they've now won 5 of 6. They should pick up another victory in the getaway game. Blue Jays over Guardians for today's free play. You can get it at a relatively cheap price still.
So we got to talk about Manoah, all right, who has been, for much of the year was a fade pitcher, and he's come back, and I guess he's been decent. But you talk about his control. His last 4 starts, 5, 4, 3, and 2 walks. He's not hitting the strike zone the way that he was last year. You talk about the home runs allowed. Last time out, 2 dingers he gave up. He was benefited, he had the benefit of run support in that ballgame. And he may well have the benefit of run support here, although it's hard to trust Toronto's offense. But is Manoah a pitcher at this stage that you're comfortable laying a price with?
He is today against Noah Syndergaard. So I guess I should have been more specific as far as command. He is walking pitchers, but at the same time, he is getting ahead in counts with a lot of batters as well. And then his slider is generating that swing and miss stuff like I mentioned. Now, Manoah, when you run the overall analytics on his pitches, he's actually not doing that much better than when he was up before. So is he a guy that I want to bet on moving forward? Probably not. But in today's spot specifically against Alek Manoah, a Cleveland team that scored 2 runs in the series in 3 games thus far, I think this is one occasion where you can lay minus 135, get the better team. Toronto gets out of here with a victory. And so a one-time bet on Alek Manoah to answer you.
It's Jimmy Adams talking a little daytime baseball. Once again, that game goes at 1:10 Eastern, about 1 hour from now. A little bonus there for the live viewers here on Thursday, WagerTalk Today. But Jimmy knows his football. You heard the college football breakdown, but didn't get a chance to talk NFL with Jimmy, and I would highly recommend you check him out this NFL season. Quite simply, he was the number 1 ranked NFL regular season capper last year in 2022 at WagerTalk. And he got off to things started right. Even the regular season, he was good, but the preseason, 71.5% last year. So check out Jimmy. And Jimmy, tell us about a $150 instant discount right now on your NFL season package.
Yeah, fantastic promo up right now at WagerTalk. You can get $150 off the entire season. That includes preseason, the entire regular season through the Super Bowl. That's now just $449. I believe that may be for today only. So you just use the coupon code ADAMS150 at checkout. Up over 55 units last year. We had a great preseason. You're not going to find a better deal anywhere. So Adams 150 at promo. Go get it. Let's make a ton of money this football season. I have a preseason play up tonight. Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great rest of your show.
Yeah, Jimmy, always great to see you. Once again, that's Adams with an S 150. Adams 150 gets you an instant $150 instant discount on the NFL season. And why wait? As I just mentioned, 71.5% of the preseason last year, and he has a play going tonight on Thursday. Check out Jimmy Adams, WagerTalk.com. All right, Teddy, we're going to get to a little soccer talk in a moment with our Canadian of the day, Carmine Bianco. It's a Prez free zone, but it's not a Canadian free zone. It's still an international show. And before we talk a little soccer, though, let's talk part 2, what bettors learned. And I'm just going to throw it right to you. A lot to get into here. I'm looking forward to this segment.
Sure, yeah, and I talked yesterday, and again, what bettors learned is a segment that I'll oftentimes talk about results from last night. Oftentimes I'll talk about concepts that we want to be paying attention to. And right now, here in August, yesterday I talked about how football season starts now, not in September, and that you should be doing your work now, not in September, the last week, and it's not about cramming, it's about having time to both do your analysis and adjust to the injuries and attrition that's inevitably going to happen between now and the start of the regular season. Today, I'm going to talk about betting accounts. And I talked yesterday about how, I was talking to my buddies in Michigan and in Colorado, and everyone's got an account or two. You have to open those accounts, all right? Seriously. What does line shopping do? Okay, you have one out, you're going to, versus having 5 outs, all right? Out of 100 bets, you're going to turn 1 or 2 pushes into wins. You're going to turn 1 or 2 losses into pushes. On average, out of 100 bets, line shopping gives you that ability. You're going to turn a couple more with the pushes into wins and a couple more losses into pushes. So let's say you get 2 each, 2 losses into pushes, 2 pushes into wins. You're a 60% handicapper, having a great season. So you're 60% capper, you're 58, 39, and 3 over 100 plays. That's plus $5,800. Minus 42.90 equals a profit of $15.10. Now, you turn 2 losses into pushes, and you turn 2 pushes into wins. Instead of being up 15.10, now you're up 19.30. That's more than a 20% increase in your profits for the year, just from doing nothing, from opening a couple accounts and line shopping. Gets better if you're a worse capper. You're a 55% capper. You have more losses, right? You're up 560 after 100 plays, 54, 44, and 2. All right. You turn 2 losses into pushes and 2 pushes into wins. Now you're 56, 42, and 2. That's up 980 instead of up 560. More than a 40% increase in your profits. Let's say you're a 50% capper. You're having a losing season, 49 and 49 and 2. All right. You're minus 490. Turn 2 losses into pushes, turn 2 pushes into W's. Now you're 51, 47, and 2, and you're only down $70 for the season instead of 490. And on and on and on. That's not even counting and mentioning bonus offers and all the promotions that the books are trying to give you. Line shopping matters for your bottom line in terms of wins and losses every week. And the more losses you can turn into pushes and the more pushes you can turn into wins, the more profit you will make. So I can't say it any simpler than this. Open those effing accounts now and take advantage. That's what I learned last night, Steve. Back to you.
It's funny we're talking this right now, Teddy, because I was on the phone just a couple of days ago with Sport Trade, and they're a reduced to kind of a match book, Betfair type upstart. I believe they're in New Jersey. They're going to probably, try to get into other states, and that's a betting exchange. And we were talking about the beauty of it, but also about how difficult it is for that model to work. And unfortunately, I think the U.S. market is a couple of decades behind the European market. Betfair does very well in England because they're more sophisticated bettors. People appreciate minus 102 juice on each side, but it's always a step back before 2 steps forward. And I think the legalization of sports betting the last 4 or 5 years, in a lot of regards, has made, there's no question, it's made the market more amateurish, right? We got people that have never bet before and a lot of young 20-year-olds. But just for example, I'm not going to throw this book under the water, but this is a big name Vegas/national book now today. One of their baseball lines is minus 140, take back plus 118. That's a 22-cent line. I mean, baseball's always been a 10-cent line, basically. Football and basketball, a 20-cent line, minus 110 each way. Nowadays, you see a lot of the big national books have minus 111 each way. They're sneaking in a 22-cent line on football and basketball. And the reason it's happening is because people don't care. They're betting it, right? If the market didn't put up with it, it wouldn't happen. You'd have more competition. So it amazes me that people don't respect reduced juice. They don't respect that extra half point, as you were talking about. And it's free. It costs absolutely nothing other than 5 or 10 minutes of initial startup work in August to have a second or third sports book the entire season in football or basketball or baseball. And now look, you say, I have a small bankroll. I'm a beginner bettor. Then split the bankroll. Put $100 in each account if you have a $200 bankroll. It doesn't matter. You have to have 2 or 3 sets of books. And just having a second book gives you a 50% better chance on every single play you make all season of getting a better number. And then a third book, it's diminishing returns after that. But you got to have at least 2 minimum. I say 3 or 4, and I know you agree, but it's just pure laziness. You have to decide if you want to win or not. And it just shows that people, Teddy, as you said, are not taking it serious. It's a hobby, not a business.
Sure. I think a lot about the poker boom, all right, because I witnessed it firsthand. In 2001, 2002, 2003, they were closing poker rooms in Vegas, all right? I would say half the poker rooms in town closed in that 3-year span. And then Moneymaker won, and we had a huge poker boom for about 4 or 5 years where there were a bunch of amateur players trying to learn how to play poker. And it was a feeding frenzy for the pros. I did very well in poker in those years because there were so many bad players. The sports betting marketplace is kind of like that right now. All right. It'll be tighter 5 years from now than it is now. All right. There is a lot of weak money in the sports betting pools, in the sports betting markets. And this is something that bettors can take advantage of. It really is on a day in, day out basis.
It's the same thing with the Triple Crown horse races, the Breeders' Cup. You get more square money in those big horse races as well, and it creates overlays. Whereas, on a daily basis, kind of like the betting exchanges, it's just sharp versus sharp on the smaller tracks. So yeah, there's definitely advantages right now with the the national marketplace, but also some really bad lines out there. So hopefully things will tighten up and become more competitive here. Competition's always a good thing in that regard. We'll see how it plays out. I want to bring on Carmine Bianco, our resident Canadian today, and Carm, obviously, Canada's getting a boom as well with national sports betting being legalized here recently. And I want to transition over to soccer because, I'm talking about that extra half a point with basketball and football. It's very obvious when you win or lose by half a point. I think where the recreational player really gets that slow bleed and doesn't catch on, as I mentioned earlier, is like a 22-cent money line, how devastating that is long term. And we talk baseball, but soccer is also kind of a money line sport a lot of times. So just get your thoughts on that before we get into some actionable info about the importance of being able to shop around on lines.
Yeah, I think what you guys are giving is obviously valuable information on having as many books as possible. With Ontario, where I am, finally legalizing, and we could always bet. It's just the books didn't have licenses, but now everyone is coming to our market. I have 8 different books here, and I did what you said. Steve, as these books got legalized here, I opened up accounts. A lot of them had some very good offers, but especially when you're dealing with whether it's NHL hockey, whether it is the NFL or European soccer, there is you've got to do line shopping. You've got to find the best number. So even if you have a smaller bankroll, you need to spread it out. You'll find out real quickly who the books are that are offering the better prices, and those are the ones you go with. There's competition, but it doesn't mean you can't find a better line anywhere. And a couple of the games that we're talking about on today's show, there is a discrepancy in lines. You'll find them on our WagerTalk live odds, which is always a great way to find where the best number is if you have those books.
It's an excellent point. I mean, check out the live odds screen. It's free. It's a service that used to cost hundreds of dollars, basically the Tom Best feed. WT.buzz/odds, the WagerTalk live odds screen. I use it on a daily basis. I know Teddy has it up as we're doing the show as well. And you will instantly see how different the lines are at every sports book. And it's free money. It amazes me, guys, how people shop around to save $5 or $10 on like a computer purchase, but they don't try to save $100 by getting a half a point on their wagers every day on football or basketball or baseball. So, Carm, we talk about money line sports with soccer, EPL, football's around the corner. NFL football, but English football is here as well. EPL kicks off this weekend. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've done a lot of work in the off season with the EPL. There's a lot of players have changed teams, changed leagues. A lot of new players have come in, and the Premier League is the best league in the world, bar none. So we're going to look at a game that goes on Saturday, and it is the last game on Saturday's card, which is 12:30 Eastern time, Newcastle United and Aston Villa. Newcastle are a small favorite at home. This is a team that improved by leaps and bounds last season, minus 132. I'm not looking at the side here, even though on stoppage time, which was on earlier, and you'll find it on the YouTube channel. So make sure you obviously hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the shows. We covered this game, and Aston Villa are a team that I think could spring the upset this weekend. A very well-coached team, Unai Emery. They brought in some players during the offseason to make themselves better. And but I'm looking at the total in this game. It's currently at 2.75. So one quick note on when you see a line at 2.75, people are thinking, what is 3/4 of a goal? If you head over to WagerTalk and you go to my page at WagerTalk, you'll find a soccer cheat sheet that you can download for free. It shows you what Asian lines are, and 3/4 of a goal is basically if you're taking the over or the under. In this case, I like the over in this game. Your your bet, if you're betting $100 on 2.75, what that means is half of your bet is on 2.5, half of your bet is on 3. So this avoids them putting up a line of 3 where it's juiced -130 one way or the other. So if the game lands on 3, half your bet wins, half pushes. If the game lands on 4, your full bet cashes. And if there's 2 or fewer goals in this game, the bet loses. These are two teams that last year traded home victories. Newcastle winning 4-0 at home at St. James Park, which is a tough place for visiting teams to play, while Aston Villa won at home 3-0. Both these teams have gotten better this year, so I expect to see some goals in this game. They actually played a friendly just a week or two ago that was an offensive showcase, finished 3-3 was the final score. I don't expect a 3-3 game on Saturday. Both teams will be better defensively. Friendlies are normally that. You get a lot of player turnover, rotation, but they scored 4 of the goals in the first half with many of the starters we see on Saturday starting in that game. One spin on totals this year, which I think is advantageous to the over-bettors this season, is one of the reasons people despise or don't enjoy watching soccer is because the games, putting the scoring aside, the games have so much delay in them. The ball is out of bounds, player substitutions, goal celebrations. And in the EPL last season, in a 90-minute game, the ball was actually only in play for 55 minutes of the game. So imagine you betting a total and you need those goals scored within a 55-minute period because 35 minutes was time wasting. Well, they've done something that the World Cup did last year, which is a great thing. Every single minute that is wasted, every single substitution, every single goal celebration, all that time is being added on. So last year, if you were watching the World Cup and you saw them at the end put up that number after 90 minutes, and there was like 11 minutes of injury time, which is what they call it. That is happening in the Premier League this season in order to get away from the time wasting, the substitutions, the goal celebrations that invariably waste about 10 minutes or 15 minutes of time. So we're going to see some games that are stretched over 100 minutes of playing time, both for the first half, second half. So we're going to see some very long games this season, and that only helps as far as goal scoring goes, because the more time that ball is on the field, the better chance you have of getting some goals scored. So I like the over in this game. The number is correct. Newcastle averaged 2.7 goals last year. Aston Villa averaged 2.6 goals per game last season. Both teams have improved. This game is at St. James Park, where Newcastle averaged 1.89 goals scored offensively last season. So I think we see some goals in this one. Maybe a 2-2 or even a 2-1 game gets us half a win, but I do like the over in this game.
So, Carmine, we have a couple of teams that they haven't had a whole lot of friendlies yet. You know, is there an advantage to betting totals in a situation where you haven't seen a lot of preseason action from these squads? And another question, when it comes to this rule change where we're going to see longer games, should we just blindly bet everything over in week 1?
I would want to say yes, but there are some teams that still play a defensive style. And normally, Teddy, you'll see the teams that are newly promoted coming from England's second league, which is called the Championship League. 3 teams that are promoted, and they're trying to pick up points. They want to stay up. So teams like Luton, who is a team that I think they were newly promoted. They're a one-and-done team. They'll be done. They're going to get relegated. I'm almost positive. Another team like Nottingham, who came up last season, is another team that played defensively early on. These are teams looking for draws, and it's the worst kind of game to watch. I hate to say it, but across the board, I think you're going to see goals, because it normally it is it's the score the first goal and the game opens up. You take a team out of their defensive shell. As far as friendlies, I think the first couple of weeks, because teams haven't played a lot of friendlies, they played 3 or 4 games. They're not into what we call mid-season shape as far as fitness levels go. And I think the offenses are ahead of the defenses. It's something similar that I take in NHL hockey in betting totals early on in the season. Is I think the offenses are always ahead of the defenses until teams find their groove. So I think we're going to see some goals scored this weekend. It's one of the common things. You see goals in the first few weeks of the season, and you see goals in the final few weeks of the season when things are already decided, and teams tend to play a much more open game.
It's Carmine Bianco talking some English football, and that's kind of the opposite of American football, right? We always say how the defenses are ahead of the offenses early, and that's why we see such low preseason totals, although they have creeped up a bit. We got some mid-30s here. They're not quite as low as they were a couple of years ago, but NFL preseason, of course, tonight and throughout the weekend, but we're talking some L football right now with Carm. And look, that was the English Premier League. One thing I do love about soccer is that they relegate? You talk about promoting, but they relegate, which I like. I wish other leagues would do that a little bit more. We get the Houston Texans down to college football maybe and bring Alabama up to the NFL for a year. So it'd be kind of interesting. Carm, let's look at some more soccer while we got you, though. Let's talk a little bit more about what is this? Explain it to me. The League Cup quarterfinals. I'm not real familiar with soccer, so tell me a little bit about the League Cup and what you're looking at. You got some plus money for us.
So it's an inaugural tournament this season, and what it is it's almost like it's in a World Cup format. But they took all the club teams in Mexico, all the club teams in North America, in the U.S., and of course the three that we have here in Canada, and put them into a World Cup type format. And we're down to the quarterfinal stages right now, and there's some very good teams still left. The one thing this tournament has brought out is obviously the biggest news was Lionel Messi coming from Europe and signing with Inter Miami, and this and a team that was last place overall in the MLS is in the quarterfinals of this tournament and winning games and doing it with some pizzazz. Messi himself has scored 7 goals in his co-number 1 as far as goals scored in this tournament. But another team that did not play in the opening round, they had a first round bye, was a team from LAFC or Los Angeles FC. And my God, they got the first round bye. And I said, as I released them -1 in their first game that they played, I said, this is a team that took the time off to heal injuries, and we're probably going to come out and play some fantastic football. And that they did. 7-1 in their first game against Liga MX side Juarez. They're playing another Liga MX side in Monterrey tonight. But they played 2 games, both at home, 7-1 and 4-0 score lines. And this is a team that is, I think they're the best team in the competition of all the MLS sides, all the League MX sides. They have a player on the team, Dennis Buenga, who has scored in the 2 games, 5 goals and 2 assists. He could very well win the Golden Boot in this competition, just based on the fact that he's almost there already. Monterrey is a good team. They've blasted through 4 games in this competition, winning all 4, beating Real Salt Lake, who LAFC beat 4-0. They beat them 3-0, 4-2 over Seattle, 1-0 over Portland. So a lot of all 3 teams from the West, where LA obviously resides. And then they beat a League MX team in the round of 16. That was Tigres, 1-0. So they're a very good team in their own right. I just think this LAFC team is playing extremely well right now. Haven't had to play as many games in this competition, and just firing on all cylinders right now. You're getting like plus 130. And this is the line shopping that we talked about a little earlier. I have, like I said, 8 books, and my prices range from 120 to 145 on LAFC. So having multiple books and multiple outs makes it important, because why would you take 120 if plus 145 is available? You have to jump on that. So the lines are starting to get populated on the WagerTalk live lines. I see a plus 130 or 135 on there. But all the books have yet to, they sort of release them the day before. And this game obviously goes tomorrow night. You'll see these lines start to pop up on our WagerTalk live lines. Price shop, because you'll get a good price. But I think LAFC is the correct bet here, and get as much plus money as you can on them.
LAFC at plus money on Friday night. Carmine Bianco, you have a 5% World Cup play up for Saturday. You have an early bird EPL package available right now. Talk to our audience about how they can get on board with your soccer for the upcoming campaign and the upcoming weekend.
Yeah, there are a couple of ways of looking at it. I have a 5% play up in the World Cup for Saturday. Our first three 5% plays in the World Cup, all winners, 6-0, 3-1, and 4-0. So they've been winning with ease. Hopefully we get another one on Saturday. You can still get the World Cup and the Leagues Cup package, which there's still 10 days left in both competitions. You get all the plays for $99, and you'll actually get a coupon for $99 towards the NHL season. So that's a great deal in its own right. And you'll get, as I said, that 5% play that normally sells for $35. And as a little bit of a bonus, during the 10 days that this tournament is still going on, you're going to get every other soccer play I release as a bonus. So the EPL games, the card that is already up for Saturday, you're going to get that. Sunday's card. So you're going to get some bonus plays as well, too. So that $99 package is pretty good. And like I said, you get a coupon for the NHL season, $99. And I finished number one at WagerTalk last year in the NHL, and looking forward to another big season.
It's Carmine Bianco, great offer right there. Final day, 10 days of both tournaments for just $99. And don't forget about his NHLs he mentioned right around the corner. You know, we talk about the importance of shopping for line value and getting the best number on every game, but it's also, whether it's the financial markets or the sports betting markets, it's important to diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket or in one sport. You know, Teddy and I do football and basketball, college and pro. We do baseball, but we don't do NHL. We don't do soccer. And here you have Carmine does both of those. That's his specialty. So that's what's great about WagerTalk.com, is that you can have multiple cappers and increase your return on investment and diversify and decorrelate as well, which is a fantastic thing when you're investing. So check out Carm's soccer special, and it leads into hockey, which is around the corner as well, WagerTalk.com. All right, Teddy, we're going to get to some NFL preseason talk in a couple minutes here with the big game breakdown to close the show. But before we do so, I know it's a Prez free zone, but there's still some BS today on Thursday, and that's the better segment, better strategy segment, the BSS segment, if you will. And please leave questions below. Look, I'll be guest hosting with Teddy tomorrow and Friday. We need another question for tomorrow's show, so leave it in the YouTube comments below after the show. On Monday earlier this week, Rakesh P. actually asked about live betting, and then Steven Utterback had a live betting question yesterday on Wednesday, so we thought we'd combine them into a general live betting question. And Rakesh actually asked which sport has an advantage with live betting. I think there's multiple sports. And then Steven Utterback actually said, which sport do you all like best to in-game bet, Prez and Teddy? But I will sub in for Prez, and we'll say Steve and Teddy. So, Teddy, I'll throw it to you first. Your general thoughts, I guess, on in-game betting and any sports maybe you think that has more of an edge than others.
So your general thought on in-game betting is that you want to get involved in a game with runs. All right, my favorite time to bet in-game is in an NBA game when the coach calls a timeout in disgust, and the other team just went on a 12-0 run, and the coach calls timeout, and that's when I come in and bet on the team that just had the 12-0 run against them. I think NBA is the best sport to live bet. Frankly, I don't think it's close, because so many games do come down to the point spread. At the end, you know, they revert to the mean, and you'll see big runs in the game that allow you to take advantage of both sides, potentially, in an NBA game. So that's the sport that stands out to me when it comes to live betting. That's my favorite sport, my most profitable sport to bet on live. Although football is probably a close second. Football, too, can be a game of runs. But NBA, for me, is clearly number one. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, exactly. My thoughts as well, Teddy. I was going to say two things you hit upon there is, first of all, no matter what sport you're betting, you always want to take adjusted line value. At least I feel that way, you know. So you don't want to, a team gets out to a 14-0 lead in the NFL, you don't want to be playing that favorite now. You want to be looking for a reason to play the adjusted bigger price underdog. And Teddy hit on that with the basketball, and that is my favorite situation as well. It works well in college basketball also. You fade the runs. And now one thing that is tricky about in-game live betting is that, you know, the networks, the cable TV networks are several possessions behind in basketball. So you really do kind of, in my opinion, have to do it during a timeout or a commercial break.
Yep.
But Teddy just gave you my favorite angle as well, and that's to take a team that calls the timeout, and it works. I know it seems obvious. Everyone knows why they're calling the timeout, but it does kill the run. Teams make an adjustment. A lot of times the losing team is fatigued. It gives them a little bit of a breather. And you see some drastic turnarounds. So he's exactly right. Basketball is my favorite as well for that reason. NBA, college would be a close second. And you want to look for a reason to play the team that's gone the other way when things aren't going right. Take that adjusted line value. Now, Teddy, one thing that is tricky about football, basketball is a game of 1, 2, 3 points, right? So it's pretty consistent as far as the scoring. Football is tricky, right? Because you could have a good 10, 20% of the points scored on one play, right? On a 7-point touchdown, boom, it can change everything. Baseball is also tricky in that regard. We're talking about an average score of 8 to 9 runs. Boom, a 3-run homer is a third of all the runs scored in that game, a one single hit. So things are a little different for football and baseball. I mean, do you feel the same way? That's what makes it a little trickier for me.
Sure, absolutely. In basketball, you're never going to score, 20% of the points on one play. Or whereas
Right.
in baseball, you're now, which you can in football or baseball. So that's why basketball is the best in my mind for in-game betting. But I do think football provides many, many opportunities, especially, I like to bet football in-game at the start of the second half when you see one team gaining, taking momentum and taking over physically. You kind of expect more than the same, and teams can run out of gas in the fourth quarter. You see a lot of fourth quarter runouts in both college football and the NFL. That's when I like to bet college football the most. Basketball, I'm betting a lot of the first half as well as second. Probably more first half than second half, really, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's fun to watch the in-game. If you ever want to win some bar bets, by the way, and play Psychic, just go to one of the live betting apps, and you can basically see 2 or 3 possessions ahead of what's on the TV probably. So you can tell your friends, I bet this team hits a 3-pointer on the next possession, and until they catch on to what you're doing, you'll look pretty smart for 5 or 10 minutes. All right, that's a little in-game betting talk. Once again, great questions from both Rakesh P. and Stephen Utterback. Thank you for commenting on YouTube in the comments below. Leave us a question for tomorrow and Friday. We need a BS segment for Friday. So if you have a betting question, a money management question, a sports question in general, throw it in there. If we don't get to it on the show, we try to answer it still in the comments. So once again, like, subscribe, and comment below. And don't forget, we talked a lot of football, some soccer today. There is some baseball, and we do have the MLB First Pitch show on live right now, and it goes live early on Wednesday and Thursday. So that's another reason to hit that bell when you subscribe for instant alerts. You can be the first to watch and get some daytime baseball. First Pitch is live right now on the network here, WagerTalk TV, for Thursday. All right, Teddy, let's close it out here with some more NFL preseason talk. The first full week of the preseason kicks off tonight. We have 2 games on the board this evening. You're going to look at one of them here in the big game breakdown.
Absolutely. Let's talk big game breakdown. Thursday night NFL preseason football. The Minnesota Vikings travel to the Seattle Seahawks. Look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. Let's call Seattle -3.5, pretty much across the board. 35 the total. There are a couple of 35.5s popping up. Preseason betting 101. When a coach doesn't care, we bet against them or we pass the game. And it's pretty clear to me that Kevin O'Connell does not care for Minnesota. All right, no way to back Minnesota tonight. I don't trust them one iota. O'Connell last year, 0-3 straight up, 0-3 against the spread as a rookie head coach. And then the team won the division. So it worked. His strategy worked. It was vindicated. He's not changing this year. The games they lost last year, 26-20, 17-7, 23-13. So 2 of the 3 by double digits, and they scored only 40 points in the 3 games tonight. Tonight for Minnesota, it's going to be Nick Mullins in the first half, at least some of the first half, and then a whole lot of Jaron Hall, the rookie out of BYU. Sure, Mullins might do something. I'm not convinced we're going to see a lot from Jaron Hall in this one. Pete Carroll used to be a bet-on coach in the preseason. In recent years, he hasn't been. 1-5 straight up, 1-5 ATS. The only one W came against another coach who didn't care, Staley, in week 3 last year. But the quotes from Carroll this time around, a little bit more enthusiastic, perhaps. And specifically, his quotes about Drew Lock, who is expected to get the lion's share of the playing time at QB for Seattle. His quotes about Lock is really important for Lock to play significantly. Drew is going to play a lot of football during the preseason. We want a quarterback with some talent, with some experience playing preseason football, and it looks like Seattle has that tonight. If I'm playing, I'm laying. Seahawks minus a spot. No interest in the Minnesota side in preseason action tonight. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
And you can watch and win with that big game breakdown. Both games tonight on NFL Network, national TV, and that's the 10 o'clock Eastern game. And then we have 6 games tomorrow on Friday, 6 games on Saturday, 2 NFL games Sunday. So the NFL is here officially, starting tonight with some preseason breakdown. Teddy, real quick, let me ask you, we talk about shopping line value. We all know how 3, at least back in the day, 3 was the most key number in all of sports in college and pro football. Both games tonight have 3.5-point favorites. We actually have a road favorite with Houston at New England. I think that tells you a little something about the game plan for those two teams. But there is some talk, I've talked about how 3 isn't as key as it used to be just even in the regular season and definitely in the preseason. So explain to viewers why that's the case.
So in the regular season, you're down 17-13, or you're down 17-7. You score a touchdown in the fourth quarter. You're going to kick the extra point to make it 17-14, 100% of the time. In the preseason, you're down 17-7. You score a touchdown in the fourth quarter. You're going to go for 2 100% of the time because you're always avoiding overtime. You don't see tie games. We saw 1, but we don't see ties or overtimes in August. So what happens is that the 3 becomes less of a key number. 1s and 2s are the key numbers in August. That's why a lot of times we're talking the favorites. We're talking the favorites on the money line as short chalk. And when you're a dog, you can catch a plus 2.5. That's worth something. Every bit as much in theory as the plus 3 is worth in the regular season. So the 3, not nearly as key a number in August. See more games decided by 1 and 2 than 3 year after year after year. And I went back like 10 years worth of data. It's not theory. This is fact.
Right. It's something you can easily test, right? Like you said, the numbers back it up and the premise backs it up as well. There's a reason behind it, which is always important when you're looking at data. So just wanted to point that out because I thought it was interesting that both games are 3.5 tonight. And I know that's a number that scares a lot of people in football, but in the preseason, it's really 2.5 that you have to worry about more than 3.5. So great big game breakdown from Teddy Covers. And we'll talk some more football, I'm sure, tomorrow on Friday on WagerTalk Today. And we'll do it at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thank you to Jimmy Adams, Carmine Bianco. Once again, check out MLB First Pitch. It's live right now. We have some daytime action for you on Thursday. And then Teddy and I will be back tomorrow and Friday. So, Teddy, good to see you. Take us home.
Sure. That's going to wrap it for the Thursday edition of Wager Talk Today. As Steve said, we'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and then, you guys know what to do. Enjoy the games and best of luck with all your wagers.